American Telugu Association was founded 30 years ago here in US. It is ATA is a traditional and cultural organization, and we do various community services for Telugu community and Indian community. To say some example, recently, like where and when in need, we help our community. Like recently, we sent 500 oxygen concentrators to India because they are which are much needed, and we do trainings like for students like SAT, for IT professionals like DevOps, Java, etc. And also we do recently we started yoga session, and recently we started Bhagavad Gita. Lot of services, community services useful for Telugu community as well as Indian community. As a part of it, as you know, last more than a year, everybody, whole world is suffering with this COVID, this pandemic. In this pandemic, as I said, we sent oxygen concentrators recently, and we conducted few tests, COVID tests. We did a couple of vaccination drives also. And now, as part of it, recently, as you all aware of, there is a travel ban between India and US. Regarding the travel ban, basically there are some emergency services required for some our community anyway. So for that reason, Attorney Madhurima from Paturi Law has came forward to give a webinar to give you to answer your questions, to give you about that how it is implemented, what are the restraints, constraints, or whatever. And thank you, Bonesh, ATA President, for organizing this, and thank you for our executive committee and the board. And Lalita Alladi, Ms. Lalita Alladi will give more introduction about Madhurima. And with this, I'll pass on to Lalita.
Hello, my name is Lalita Alladi, and I am an immigration attorney at JMG Law Firm. I'm a senior attorney, and I'm also a board member of the South Asian Bar Association of Georgia. It is my distinct honor to introduce to you Ms. Madhurima Paturi, who's the owner, of course, of Paturi Law, and she is also the ATA Immigration and Legal Committee Chair. Ms. Madhurima Paturi also serves as the president. She is going to give us her opinions and advice on the situation that is going on in India and between India and the US related to the COVID-19 proclamations and bans that have currently been placed. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Paturi so that she can tell us a little bit more about the current situation.
Our motherland, India, is going to a very devastating situation right now. And this is really, really extreme and unfortunate situation. And with this lead to a lot of uncertainty around us in every level. That leads to, of course, to the immigration as it is leading to between the borders. So the President Biden has issued a proclamation imposing a CDC guidelines and the protecting the between the countries, the borders, and trying to contain and control the this variation which we are going through currently in India right now. It has anything otherwise more than this. I just want to make sure that we just joined a bunch of other countries which was already in the list, like Brazil, China, Iran, Ireland, UK, few countries, South Africa. All these countries been there already in the travel ban. As we go according to the health conditions, these are all getting into the list. So finally, because of what's going on in India, India is joined this one, and this is going to be effective tomorrow night. So that's like a 1 a.m. on Tuesday, but literally it's the Monday night if you're living in the United States. So that's what it's going to happen. And 14 days, foreign nationals who have been physically present in India within 14 days of travel to the United States will be barred from entry unless they qualify for an exception. So we'll be talking more focus on a little bit on the exceptions. We know that in general, that the idea is there will be a less flights between the countries. Obviously, there may be a less outgoing flights coming from India, and there are a few guidelines where everybody has to start taking out, like getting the negative test before you come in, and quarantine after you come in, and test it again. Try not to spread the virus in general. So we'll be talking more on the exception itself. So who are exempted from this? Yes, there is a ban, but there are few people can come. So I think our focus today is on like who can come. Absolutely, the US citizens can travel without any restriction as long as there is flights available. So does the LPRs, legal permanent residents, or the green card holders. So there are also few exceptions, which is very, very important. The reason I said very important is majority of the population who is going to be affected through this is the H1B population. So those H1B population can be affected with this um, uh, with this ban. There are few exceptions, I think, that which probably they could be eligible. So let's say that a foreign national who have the kids who are under 21 years old. If you have a kid here in the United States who is under 21 years old, so you can able to come into the country. So it's the same thing, a foreign national who is a sibling of the US citizen or a lawful permanent resident, saying that they both are under 21 and unmarried, they can able to come into this country. So a sibling is staying back in the country right now. He may not be US citizen, he may not be LPR, but their other sibling who is living in the United States, they can be, but they're still qualified to come into that category. So I just want to make sure that even though you are on different visa, just make sure that do you have a kid who is under 21 years old? Can you able to come in? If you're planning to come in, just make sure that you bring that documentation to show it to the TSA, and to the security officer and the border control, all these things, especially when you qualify for any kind of the exception, make sure that you have the documentation carrying with you. That's very, very important. So on the top of this, there are a few other exceptions, like which may or may not be eligible for a lot of people. So like obviously, if you're working for the US government or any purpose related to that, air and sea crew member, and also the most important thing, which is not there in the exception before, but it started on April 26th. It's called as a national interest exception. It is not there in the travel ban before. They just added this one last week. The students are allowed to come in. If they got admitted for the fall, you are admitted to come into the country. You are under exception on this ban. So that's huge thing. I know it's very important for a lot of Indians who got into the admission, and they're worrying that, hey, we got the visa, we got everything ready, we were planning to get into the flight, but we couldn't able to come because of the ban, but you are accepted. That's a good news based on from last week, There is also other academics, J1 research related to any kind of the health or any national interest. Those are all comes under the same exception. So that's a new update on that one. So what is this means is obviously, I think that a lot of H1s is probably thinking that, can I have a job? When are we coming back? Obviously, nobody knows the answer when. Hopefully it's not too long, and hopefully everything will suppress in India soon. We are all hope it and pray for it, and organizations like ATA is doing amazing job in helping the motherland country. We are so proud of it, the organizations coming forward doing this. So we really don't know when the travel ban is going to be taken out, but we will be bringing up all those updates to the ATA quickly. once we know that. But for now, the exceptions are very important. If you have any specific that, hey, I do have the kid here, but I stuck in India, can I come in? Those kind of the questions are encouraged later. We can discuss more detail on those kind of the things. Other than that, what is that I want to update is a lot of people who got stuck here, like especially the parents and visitors, business people who came on the B1, B2 and other visas. They are telling that the India is really devastating right now. I can't go back. I know my visa is finishing up. My I-94 is finishing up. I can't go back. Can I do something? You definitely can extend. I know the extensions are taking really long time. The one we applied in the beginning of the COVID last year in March, still they're not approved. So we applied 2 or 3 of almost like we are in, I think that we are in the 4th extensions for a lot of people. So don't think that you get stuck just because you don't get the extension one time. You can keep extending. If you ask for a duration of 6 months, if you don't get the extension approved before that time, keep asking for it. But most important thing is you don't want to be unlawfully present here. Make sure that the duration date is very, very important. If you ask her until the May, make sure that you apply the extension before the May, even though you didn't get the first one approved. Keep doing it, the second one, third one, fourth one. Yes, we are in a humanitarian crisis right now. There's nothing is going to stop. There is no borders are allowing you to coming in, you know? So there is no other option for you applying for the extension, and everybody can understand, you know, it could take a time, but make sure that you leave whenever you wanted to leave. Make sure that you leave within the duration time you ask. But until then, you keep extending that one. That is very important because we're receiving a lot of questions related to that, especially elders and the parents who got stuck here. It's so important to know that one. And at the same time, if you're finishing up or you finishing your duration of any of your status right now, you can use the same thing. You may not get the same category of the visa, but you can change the status to the B2 on the base of the humanitarian crisis. You could able to stay around here. So that's other update I want to do it. We just want to focus today more on the travel ban questions. I understand a lot of people probably come up with the questions on the EAD delays especially, and a lot of other things. We'll try to answer as much as we can, but try to focus on mostly on the travel ban questions because it's going to be effective tomorrow night. We really want to make sure that everybody is aware of the exceptions. And the other thing I really want to, even though it is not directly related to this, and I do want to say that just as a community member who really concerns about this, so there may be things coming up regarding to the racism in this whole thing, backlash of the COVID and India and everything, how it started when in China last year, obviously Asian Americans got affected a lot in America, you know, calling them it's Chinese, calling them Asian thing, this and that, you know, that could probably affect us too as a South Asians and Indians. I just want everybody to be vigilant on that. If you see anything, hear anything, just report to the law enforcement, report and talk about in the community around us. You know, we don't know what's happening to other people's life, right? Unless you say so, then everybody can be more careful and see what we have to expect and how we have to react to that. It is very, very important to be support each other, grow together as a community, and watch each other and support. So that's all I wanted to talk about travel ban. I don't want to go too much into the other topics. I know that there's a lot of important topics. We'll be bringing up more webinars in the future. Let's take the questions more, just focusing on the travel ban.
Sure. Yes, we are getting a lot of questions and all on the travel ban. So you're going to have a lot to cover now. So you already spoke about how if there is an H-1B, or sorry, there's a US citizen here and they have family overseas, that if they're under 21, even on an H-4 or something else, then they would be able to come into the US. But
the kid has to be, the kid who is in the United States has to be under 21, yes.
Okay, so the question we received is slightly different. They're talking about someone is saying they have a wife and children in India. Can they come back? What would be the situation for that if they're on H-4?
If the kid is a US citizen on LPR and he's under 21, they could qualify to come back.
So the parent will be able to, because they have to bring the child back.
Correct.
Okay. And there are also questions about B2 visas. Let's see, we have, it says, I have a question about an extension for my parents. They are here on the visitor visa, I-94 expiring May 2021. I'm planning to apply for the extension like you just talked about. If their extension gets approved, can they stay until October 2021, or can they stay only till the visa is valid July 2021? Please clarify the date.
Yes, I just want everybody to know that visa is different to the I-94. Visa is something like you need a permission to come into the United States. So you can apply, you can come into the country even the last day of the visa as long as the visa is valid. So once you enter into the border, you will be receiving I-94, that is called as arrival and departure record. That is what it is important. So once you enter into the country, let's say that they were given 6 months stay in the United States. So that doesn't matter, even though visa expired, but you could stay in the country based on the I-94 itself. So when it comes to this particular situation, yes, the visa is finished, but you can extend the I-94. You can't extend the visa in the staying in the country, but you can definitely extend the I-94, which is the stay of the record. You're trying to only ask the permission to stay in this country. So that has nothing to do with the visa. Even a visa expired, you're allowed to stay and extend the B2 without any issues. Whenever you stepped out of the country next time, you have to make sure that you apply for the extension for the visa. So that's the difference between the visa and the I-94. The answer is yes, you can apply the extension for the B2 without concern of the visa validity.
Okay, I think that's going to be very helpful for them. Thank you. Then we have another question. My son is in the US on a tourist visa. He got confirmation of admission in the US university, and we have his I-20 and scheduled a visa appointment in Hyderabad in June, first week.
Okay.
If he applies for a change of status while he's in the US, in the travel ban situation, will there be any problem in the future when he goes for stamping?
No, no. I mean that you only applied for an appointment, but you didn't process anything. Definitely, at this situation, we don't know when the consulates are opened, when everything, the borders are opened. I think that glad he's here, which is good thing, you know. So let's go ahead and apply for the change of status. And there is also called a bridge application, which is very important to be thinking when you do the change of status to the, especially to the F1, you know. So if you need more details, you can contact us and write us back, or you can call us to our offices, you know, we'll take care of that. But there is a bridge application, which is very important. To answer your particular question, yes, you can apply for the change of status, and it shouldn't be a problem in the consulate for the future. So, but he do have to get the visa when he steps out next time. That's there. To continue to stay here on the F1, he can just do the change of status.
So essentially, can they also understand that instead of doing it as a consular processing, they're just changing it to a US change of status? Would that be correct?
Correct, yeah. They don't have to have the visa stamping for the F1, but as long as the change of status on the I-94 reflects for the F1 visa.
Okay. We have another question. I'm a US citizen. My parents' visiting visa was, and they have a visiting visa, and they booked the tickets to fly to us on May 10th before the travel ban. Will they be allowed to fly?
So they're in India right now.
It's looking that way, yes.
So, no, can you repeat, what are they? Are they on B2, you said?
Well, they're saying, yeah, they're coming to visit. So we have to assume they're on a B2 visa. And the person who's asking the question is a US citizen adult about the parents coming to visit.
Yeah, no, they can't. They can't.
Okay. Then is an H-1B visa holder allowed to transit through Frankfurt on May 3rd?
Oh, wow. Well, I don't know what the restrictions in the Frankfurt is, you know, but the most important thing is it's going to be hard. I don't know. I don't know the transit requirements. I can't say anything about it.
Well, would you say that currently the way the ban reads, does it have to do with whether you've been in India within the last 14 days?
After the ban effects, you know?
Yeah. It's about the last, so that question will probably come when they enter the US if they try to, right?
Yeah, I mean that obviously they have to go to the tests and other things, you know, but the question for them is they are leaving and they're trying to come here before the travel ban implements, which is tomorrow midnight.
You had explained a little bit also about, sorry about the noise there, helicopters. You had explained about the F1 visa. We have a couple of questions about whether you can clarify whether F1 visa holders can still come into the US. So I think they want a little bit more clarification on that.
Okay. So if you're a returning student, you're fine. And if you have the admission for the fall, you're fine. But if you already have the stamping and if you're a student and if you have the F1 stamping, I don't see any problem. I don't know if do they have any particular question on that, which they want me to clarify on that?
They did not. They did not pose a specific question, but I think you've answered by saying which F1 students would be permitted, right? The ones
Right,
who already
yeah.
have the visa stamp.
As long as they're stamped and they have the I-20, either the returning student or the student who is going to be attending for the fall, I think they are eligible to come in. I don't see any restrictions in that.
Okay. One of the followers wants to ask, can you please explain what documents or which documents are required to prove that grandparents are the legal guardians for the children?
Oh, wow. It's not, okay. Right now, I know it's not a related topic right now we are talking about. I think it's more you have to do with the family law attorney. I don't want to talk in anything detail, but there is a relationship thing which you need to be focusing on here and try to provide the relationship and some notary documents where you can say that they're related to you. But I think that that's something we can talk a little later on that.
Okay. Can a B1, B2 spouse of a green card holder travel to the US under the travel ban? Any non-citizen who is the spouse of a US citizen or a lawful permanent resident?
The spouses are allowed to come in as again, as long as you can able to show that you're a spouse, right? You know, but the question is, did they apply for immigrant visa is something you need to look at it. You don't want to be having any issues for the dual representation coming into the country while you're married to a US citizen and the green card holder. You should be coming on the spouse visa or the fiance visa or depend upon your marriage, but you will be taking the chance of coming on the B2 and then you're presenting here. In general, they may not ask, right? If you come on the B2, you have a B2, you just come in. At this time, you have to show that exception where your relationship with the US citizen or the permanent resident hopefully it's not a problem, but usually as attorneys, we never encourage that because it does have a dual representation there.
Okay.
You just have to be careful on that.
Then the next one, of course, not sure if you could answer this, is the question on many people's minds. Do you know how long this ban is going to be in place?
No. Unfortunately, nobody knows. You know, as you see that a lot of countries who were before India in the list, they're still in the list, you know. So it is very hard to tell. Obviously, as you all know the situation, what's going on in India, definitely that has to be suppressed before it happens anything. And I'm sure the administration is looking into the CDC guidelines and the health administration and all those things before we think of anything. But as soon as we know, we'll let you know.
Okay. Let's see, some of them are repeating and I feel that you've answered it. There we have a lot of questions on H1 and H4, but you have answered those type of questions about is there an exception applicable to the H1B parent whose H4 kid, 5 years old, is in the US now. You mentioned that because that child is there, would they be able to come?
Yeah, I mean that's one of the exceptions, right? We talked about earlier. A foreign national who is the parent or the legal guardian of an unmarried US citizen or lawful permanent resident under the age of 21. so are exempted from the list. So if foreign national here is the H-1B and they are the parent for an unmarried US citizen, which is the kid under 21, where the kid is 4 years old. So that shows that they can, but just make sure that the documentation is available, everything with you to show it at the border control. Yeah.
Okay. Now you've talked a lot about F1 students. What about the spouse on an F2? Will they be able to accompany that F1 spouse who's the primary?
I don't think so. They mentioned anything. They specifically mentioned about the students.
Yeah.
So they didn't say their families are the dependents. So let's not assume that it's okay. It was very clearly mentioned that under the national interest exemption, it's clearly mentioned about only the students.
Okay. What is your take on other visas? Those who are here, those who were working here went for a temporary visit on an employment visa, like an L1 visa. If they went to India and now they need to return, but aren't able to get a flight back within the allotted time by Tuesday, what can they do and what is possible?
So I know when we had the proclamation last year, a lot of HLs and all those are all restricted not to come, but they're exempted if they're working for any emergency kind of the situations, or the employers are related helping with the COVID-19 virus or anything, that they're exempted to come in, But right now in this circumstances, they are not one of the exempted category. Definitely not on the any kind of categories unless we can show that they are in the research or emergency reasons or anything like that. But the exemptions itself doesn't mention that anything that they can able to come at this point. They're all under they fall that they have the kids or the spouse or somebody US citizen or green card holder. That's okay, but not directly that they could able to come in under the list.
Okay. So it has to be some kind of emergency that they have to be able to prove, or that that their work itself is related to the COVID and they're able to help.
I don't see that yet. That was there last year with the proclamation. In this particular proclamation with the exceptions and implementation, the emergent, that anybody who is working for the COVID-19 suppress related employers still not added in the list. I'm hoping that that will be added eventually, but right now, because of the surge of all this virus in India, that was not in the list yet.
Okay.
So whatever the exceptions we talked about, the US citizens, LPRs, the foreign nationals who is a parent of the minor child under 21 and who are the spouse, or somebody who is that lawful permanent resident and the US citizens, and a bunch of other which is not directly related to our Indians are only exceptions. I think that the top four categories, which I can repeat right now, is obviously the US citizens, lawful permanent residents, spouses of LPRs and citizens, and the foreign nationals parent and the sibling who are under 21, their kid is in the United States. These are the four takeaways for the exception wise today.
Okay. Do you think this is going to affect anybody who's in the middle of, let's say, the green card processing and they applied for an appointment at the consulate? Do you think that's going to affect them?
Definitely, because they didn't get the visa yet. If you got the visa, yes, you are allowed to come, even though the ban is in effect. But the situation who is in the process of the consulate or in the process of the NIV, which is a NVC, National Visa Center, and all those things, if you are in the middle of the process, still you're not eligible to come into the United States because you're not stamped with the visa for as a spouse for the US citizen or the LPR yet. So that could affect them. And also remember, everyone, that consulates are closed, and it's officially everyone is closing from tomorrow in India, all the consulates, So I don't know what are they thinking about in terms of the emergency yet. They didn't say anything, but as of tomorrow, officially all the US consulates in India are closed.
Okay. Then we have someone asking a question that's very technical regarding, so they're saying that they have a flight out of one city in India. Okay, in this situation, it's Hyderabad, and then connects in Delhi before they leave for the US. But their first flight is before the travel ban, and their second flight, I suppose, is right, overnight and is after the travel ban. They're saying, what is the starting point of my travel, and will I be allowed to leave?
So this is what you have to think, starting 12:01 Eastern Standard on May 4th, 2021, foreign nationals who have been physically present in India within 14 days of travel to the United States will be barred. That means that even though you left Hyderabad, you're still in Delhi, that is within the country of the premises of India, so still affects that. It doesn't matter. Geographically, where you are is important.
Right. Okay, there's still some questions about the H4 visa. They're not providing so many specifics. Just if that person who's writing did not clarify an H4 visa, if they would like to write their specific question, because we've addressed various H4 visa questions. But if you'd like to one more time write your question, we'll be happy to address it. There's an example here. I'm on an H1 currently in the US. My wife's H4 flight is scheduled on May 5th from New Delhi to Washington, D.C. Will she be able to enter the US, or should I cancel her ticket?
So they're leaving on May 4th.
Flight is scheduled on May 5th from New Delhi to Washington.
No.
So it's after the
Go
travel.
ahead and cancel, yeah. No.
Yep, you might as well cancel. Do you think that just like you mentioned about green card consular processing, will this affect people on trying to apply for a fiancé visa, K1?
Of course, yeah. That you have to remember the consulates are closed, if you already have the stamping, you're fine, so, but fiancés is not even a part of the exception anyway. They're only the spouses of the US citizens, and the LPRs are only allowed. Fiancés is not even a part of the exception.
Right. We talked a little bit about, someone asked if they could come through another European country. Now someone wants to know, they're all trying to find ways to get back here. So they're asking, what do you think about me if I'm able to leave the US and I dock in another country for 14 days? Will I be permitted into the US after that?
Yeah, I don't see the reason why, because they specifically mentioned only the India. You shouldn't be physically present in last 14 days in India. And I don't see the reason why.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. I have a kid who is a citizen and the parents are on H1 and H4, all three in India. Can both parents travel with the kid? You, again, have answered that saying they can because of the child, right?
Yeah. One of the exception is a foreign national under 21 kid, a US citizen.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what else would you like to tell us, Madhu? Things to keep in mind when, what should they be doing? What sort of documents should people be keeping if they're stuck in India right now?
So especially I get a lot of questions from last 1 year about the LPRs, right? Because specifically they have to show the residency and they couldn't able to come within the 6-month period of the time, which they're supposed to be coming back to the United States. They couldn't able to come. A lot of people couldn't come still from last 1 year because of the circumstances and the health conditions and different conditions and everything. So one other thing is it's so important when it comes to the LPR is even though you can't able to come here, but try to maintain the connections here. If you have a rental house, if you have your own house, or if you're maintaining the bills and bank statements or anything like that, a regular business, just like you went for a vacation and you're coming back, it's just the vacation become a longer, right? So you still continue what you have to maintain the ties in America. That could help us, and also try to maintain all the documentation that like you have the flight tickets coming in, right? right? And you cancel them eventually. So make all those a record, make a list of it, which you try to come in, but you couldn't able to come, or if your health condition got regressed, you have a copies of the medical records. So you need to have both kind of the documentation on both sides, that why you couldn't come on time, and you still maintaining the ties in the United States. These two are very, very important when it comes to the LPR. This is a very common question we received from last 1 year. So that's with the LPR, and obviously with the US citizens, and they're just they can able to stay here. I mean that they can, as long as they want to, as long unless the Indian government says that get out the US citizens. That's a different story. We could talk about it later. Hopefully not, um, but for them, they don't have to maintain any particular documentation. I'm kind of more concerned on the LPRs, especially the LPRs who are ready to become a citizens and they couldn't do it because they lost the residency requirement. Now they're staying over the 6 months. They're kind of concerned. That's like a huge topic last year, And other than that, the H1Bs and the L1s, I'm sure it's really a one of those situations nobody planned for it. The people left like last week, a couple of weeks before, assuming that they're coming back in a week, right? Now this is really shattering to a lot of people. And remember, a lot of people actually traveled and they want to get the stamping before they come in. That's more worse now because the consulates are obviously closed. They went there just for a vacation or see the parents or family or anything like that. They wanted to come back after do the stamping. Now they got stuck for two reasons. The consulates are closed, they couldn't come, and they don't have the stamping to come in within next 2 days. So there's a lot of uncertainty here. You have to continue to keep doing what it is, and I'm sure all the employers will understand what everyone is going through. If there is a H1 and the L1 or related visas, if they're able to stuck in India and couldn't come on time. So hopefully the work from home could continue. Hopefully the jobs will continue as it is. We really pray for this to go soon.
Sure. In the past year, we've had a lot of questions, right? About, like you just mentioned, if they're stuck, what are the different options? Can you tell people a little bit about a re-entry permit and why that would not be an option in this circumstance if they're stuck in India?
Yeah, it's really hard. Obviously, there's two things you could do the re-entry permit. You should have applied before you left, assuming that you're staying more than 6 months. Nobody assumed this thing. I truly understand, and that is not possible because that's usually possible when you took the biometrics, when you applied here, got the biometrics, and you left before that. So the process will still continue, That's not the majority of the case, right? Obviously, So there's a lot of people who got stuck in India and couldn't come more than 6 months, not thinking that to stay longer than 6 months. And they couldn't apply the SB1 right now for the that applying for the, okay, let's say 2 years we can't come, The consulates are not opened, obviously, to apply for those things, That's probably got stuck for them in applying in returning visas or extending the stay for the green card holders to stay outside the country. Is that did I answer that question? Okay.
Yes. And, you talked a little bit about how some people make plans to go back to India for stamping, right? Mm-hmm. If right now they still need a stamp because they changed status or for whatever reason, they need that stamp. Okay, let's say they have to do it for work. They know they're going to have to travel more for work to other countries. If they're not able to now, they're not able to go back to India to get the stamping done. Mm-hmm. Should they consider, and is it even possible to get their stamping done in another country? Do you think that'll become permissible?
So first thing I want to tell really louder this thing is don't just travel because of the stamping. I get all the time this question, oh my God, my visa is finished. I had to go get the stamping. Don't ever travel just to get the stamping, okay? If you have to travel and get the stamping done, and if you're an international traveler constantly, you could probably think and plan ahead, because a lot of the consulates are closed, remember, and even though they're open, they're only open for the particular groups, right? Not for all the visas. Obviously, have the plan. It could change. There is a lot of uncertainty right now. If you can avoid traveling, that would be great, obviously. If you can't avoid, plan ahead, and have the backup plan before you go. But don't ever, ever, ever travel just for the stamping reason.
Right. With the consulate and the embassy closed, will they process the NIV or an emergency appointment for students with less than 60 days from the program starting? There are a lot of questions about their specific summer program that a lot have been accepted to. And I think they want to know, will the consulate take an emergency appointment for that? Because they're
So, yeah, I understand why they're asking that question, because in the first phase, there was a consulates closed for a long time. Obviously, we all know that, Then they restarted opening. There are a few exemptions and the emergency situations, and that emergency actually situations kind of deviated a little bit later. Like, even like a mental health could become a prominent at some point because there is a family separation, which is a devastating, obviously. The H1s and H4s are divided, F1 and the F2s are divided. There is like people have to stay apart like almost a year. This is really serious crisis, right? And then when they reopened the consulates, at the beginning of this year and the end of the last year, they did consider a few things as the emergency situations, and people got a lot of them on the F1, even the H1s who are working for some emergency reasons and other things, they do get the stamping. I'm not saying no. Is that the same case it's going to happen now is $1 million question. First of all, the consulates, you have to remember that consulates are not even ready to open yet. India is really, really in a critical situation. We all know that, and it's hard to understand when it comes to our own personal immigration situation. I truly understand that. I don't think consulates will be encouraging at this point to get to as a dependence as an emergency situation. I don't see that happening right away. It could probably change once the things change a little bit and they open, let's say one of the consulate open for the regular business hours. Maybe they will consider doing these kind of things as emergency, but I don't see the true emergency that they have to come like as a F2 dependent or those things, unless there is a kids involved, there is a family involved, which is a situation's very emergency, I know exactly why they're asking this question. It did happen a couple of months ago, and a lot of emergency visas are accepted, but it may take time for the consulate to get back to that point.
Okay. We have someone who's added a question related to the B1, B2 spouse of a green card holder. The spouse already has an approved I-824 to follow and join.
Okay.
Will they be permitted to travel, to leave India?
So I-824 is approved. I-824 is in America. You apply in America, But my question is, did they go to the consulate to get stamped is the question. If they got the stamped, if they have stamped, then they can come, no problem. So if it is only I-824 is approved and they didn't go to the visa yet, they are not allowed to come.
Okay. Okay, well, those are the main questions. They want to know, is the travel ban from both India and to India? Is it in both directions? Are they also not taking people in India?
I think they are allowing the Indian citizens to come. I don't know. I didn't follow anything about the Indian consulate. I only know about the US consulates, I don't know. I think that I don't see any reason why the Indian citizens can't go back to India. That shouldn't be a problem.
Sure. Okay, any other final pieces of advice you have for our viewers today?
No, just remember the exceptions, and good news about the exception is students are added, which is a great news. And one more thing to remember as a students is, I know there was a lot of frustration last year, either the requirements of the online and the hybrid classes will make the foreign students to stay here or continue with their I-20s and the OPT. Are they eligible for the OPT and the CPT and all those things because they're taking the lot of online classes and all those things. So I just want to know that the policy is still going on what is started during the COVID time. They were planning after the COVID during the last fall or spring, they're trying to go back to the original policy, but after all this Harvard, MIT, everybody got the suing the government, then we went back to the COVID restrictions. That's still continuing currently now. So you could take the online classes, you can do the hybrid classes, you still can maintain the I-20. They shouldn't be restricting you anything. And if you have to stay in India for any reason and you couldn't come back, you can still continue all those online classes and everything, and just continue what you have to do it. But they are a little bit easy on the students. That's a good news.
Okay, and you've given such great advice. We have a viewer who would like you to drop your phone number in this at some point to contact you in the future. Do you want to put it later in the YouTube chat later?
Yeah, Arta can type in, I guess, the email address. We do have a special email address in the Arta.
Okay.
I work as a legal chair and the immigration chair at the Arta. We will get all the emails through the Arta. We'll take care of it.
Okay. Thank you so much for really providing wonderful advice at a time when it's so critical for those here at the American Telugu Association.
Yeah,
And with
stay
this,
safe, everyone. And it is so important. Just stay together and continue to support the community as much as you can. And Arta, again, they did a wonderful job in putting together so many funds in such a short time in sending the oxygens back to the country. And everybody is doing their part. Keep doing it, and just be vigilant in regarding to anything you hear about it. Just use your voice and raise your voice if you have to. Just work together as a community. And any other immigration or legal questions, just send an email to the Arta Immigration email. I think they will be typing soon, and we'll take care from there in the future. And we'll be bringing more webinars if anything comes up. Hope this is helpful. Thank you.
And with this, I thank you, Madhurima Garu, for giving such a nice advice for a lot of people and answering a lot of questions. And also, I thank Lalita ji for moderating very nice. And we thank you, ABR Productions and Mana TV, and also our Arta board and executive committee and board. Thank you very much.
Thank you.